In this video, we're going to talk about animation, but before we will talk about cameras in Maya, how we can set up camera either for static renderings or for animation, depending on what we will output from the software here. So we will go directly here to create and go to cameras. So cameras are just like any other object that we can create in Maya, except that they are just used for creating views basically, or point of views, and then we can adjust them a little bit, and we can set up to use special effects that simulate reality, like depth of field and motion blur and things like that. Depending on how we set up the parameters, we can get different effects and different looks to our scene. We can also customize a little bit more, again, what our output will be, which is usually a single static rendering or a animation. Now, right now I'm moving the camera in my perspective here, and this movement here, it's called like Dolly movement in movies. Now, this is not going to be a course in movie, of course, or in directing movies, but you can use the same techniques which are used in photography and cinematography if you want. So you can, if you are an expert on that, that's gonna be really useful. Now the first tool down there is the timeline or time slider. This is where we can actually manage the animations in our scene. And the animation, it's also down at the top here. We can see the workspace. We can activate the animation workspace, but we're gonna stick with the standard because we're always going to have the time slider at the bottom, which is necessary to create animation. And here we have already 4 cameras you can see in the outliner at the left. So these are the 4 default cameras that Maya uses, and we already know those because when you switch to 4 views, you see the top view, the perspective, and the others. But here we can create more. We can create more cameras, we can create more views, and then we can switch from a view to another, and we can create basically different renderings or previews of renderings that then later we will render. So right now I've created a camera by clicking on camera and aim or static camera, and I see the camera in the outliner and I see the camera in the attribute editor, but I don't see it here in the viewport. And let me show you why. Because, well, there are 2 main reasons for that. Either the camera is deactivated into the viewport, so we go into the show menu, and there we're gonna see if cameras are actually on or off. And also let's turn on the HUD, which are the heads-up display, and those are gonna tell you if where your view is. So if you are in the standard perspective, that's gonna be called persp or perspective. If you are in the camera called main view, you're gonna be in the main view. So once you create the camera, you should be able to see the camera, but usually you will not see it because it could be too small. So this is the other reason. So it's either turned off or it's too small or too big. So you can select it and frame it from the outliner. And once you spot it in the scene, you can press F if you want to frame it. So once you spot it right there, you can scale it up in order to be appropriately scaled for the scene. So I'm gonna click on the scale tool, I'm gonna scale it up just as I do with any other object in Maya. So this is where we can actually see our camera here. So it's either, again, the viewport options or the scale. Could be also that you are already inside the camera, but right now we are not inside the camera because we are in perspective view. You can see that. Now to get inside the camera, we can go to view, and well, first of all, we can select the camera also from here. So this is gonna select it. It's gonna select the perspective because this is the actual camera we are on in the viewport. So this is what it's gonna show us in the attribute editor. And right here we can also And you can see that we can also edit the standard perspective camera if we want. We can change the attributes there, but I would not change it. I will use the new cameras because I don't want to mess up the standard perspective camera. Could be useful later. So again, I will select the camera into the viewport there, my camera, and those are the attributes of that camera right now. But still I'm not inside that camera. So we're gonna go to panels, and in the various panels here, we can go to perspective. Also, we can create orthographic views, new orthographic views, but we're gonna create here, well, actually we already created a new view, which is called main view, and I named that in the outliner. And there you go. So right now I am inside the camera that I have just created, and down there I can see the name of this view is main view. And I can go here and create a new one also from here. And this is called persp shape 1. And if I scroll down, I can see it here in the outliner again, and I can name it something else, something different. Let's say external, because this is kind of in the exterior part of the project, of the architecture here. And if I move around, just like I do with using navigation tools in Maya, like we already know from the starting lessons of the video course, if we navigate, we are basically positioning the camera. So when we are inside the camera and we move around, we are actually working with the camera. We are changing the position, we are changing the rotation, and not the scale, because we don't need scale. And we are changing, there you go, so you can see there that I have just changed the position of that initial camera. Or I can do that in the viewport using the move and rotate tools. But I always then need to check the final outcome by going inside the view in the perspective there. And same thing about orthographics, you can create also views from there. So when my views are ready, I can just go there and switch from a view to the other real quick. So I set up perhaps like 10 different views on my project. And so I fix them a little bit. And when I'm ready to render, I just go there and render out that particular viewport, that particular point of view, etc., etc. Now the other one here is camera and aim, which is similar to the spotlight with aim. So here you will have not only a camera, but you're gonna have a group of objects in the outliner. You can go in the outliner, you can see the group, you can see that inside the group you will have the camera, which is gonna be, again, kind of your point of view. And then you will have also, let's scale this up as well and move it up. So right now it's about the height of a human eyes, or maybe 160, 170. And then we have the aim, which is actually another object that we can manipulate. So you can place the aim in a part of your scene. For example, if you want to concentrate on a character, and then when we'll do the animation, we will move the camera around, but the focus will always be on that scene, where on that part of the scene where we placed the aim of the camera. So this is why